Yeah, Rubik's Cubes, man. All the ladies love that at a party.
Absolutely.
It's a
You
rage.
got to get the speed cube though. You show up with one of the Toys R Us ones that get laughed at.
I miss Toys R Us. Those were the days.
Is it gone, or you just don't shop there?
I'm quite sure that they're extremely bankrupt. Are they not?
Probably, right?
I think they're quite gone. When's the last time you've been in a Toys R Us?
I don't know, dude. When I liked toys, I don't know. As a kid, I honestly couldn't tell you. You're probably right.
There's
the
a
one that
reason
I
for
know
that.
of is gone. It was right next to a sports. What was it called?
Sports Authority.
Sports, which is also gone.
Also
We're good,
deleted.
Mike. Yeah, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NFL Live Before Lock Showdown Edition. Packers, if you want to call them that, squaring off in the desert against the Arizona Cardinals. And we got a game for ourselves, kind of, tonight, fellas. A lot to break down. We got about an hour to do so, so plenty of time. I'm Dave Lochran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, joined by Ben Rasa, jack of all trades, master of many at Chazraz DFS. And the number one ranked DFS player out there, Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. What's going on, brother?
What's up, guys? Not much. I spent today, I'm like, dang, who of these Packers wide receivers are we going to play? Because, like, the three best ones are out tonight. This is insane.
You know, honestly, Ben, I was thinking about this. I didn't take the time to look it up, but outside of Randall Cobb, how many career receptions do these receivers have?
Yeah, I mean, St. Brown's been around here
Yeah,
and
he
there,
probably got
but
25.
we were talking a little before the show. Amari Rodgers is a guy that I don't remember him getting in the mix at all. And honestly, after that, I truly didn't, before we looked at the slate, I didn't even know any of these guys were on the team. So it's a giant drop off after that. It's going to be very interesting because it's funny. Everyone is joking about the game. It's still just a 6-point spread. It's not like the Packers can't win this game. It's funny. It feels like, oh, this is going to be a blowout. Absolutely not right now, looking at the spread.
I think a lot of that has to do with just Aaron Rodgers.
He will be there. Yeah.
Yeah, he will. I'll tell you what, though, Alex, it stands to reason that you are going to see a lot of Aaron Jones tonight. And the crazy thing about this slate is with these sites like DraftKings releasing pricing as early as they do on some of these, nothing accounted for Devontae Adams, who we didn't find out about this news until Tuesday. Like even the Alan Lazard news and now MVS being out, none of that was accounted for. So you haven't seen any preemptive price bumps on anyone, including Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones really stands out as an amazing play. When Devontae was out last year, he got the ball a ton. It wouldn't be surprising if they lean on him more with Devontae Adams out. Plus, you got all the salary relief options on the Packers, too.
All right, so Ben, here's my question, right? What is going on? Is my framing all messed up, Mike? I think it is. It's
You'll
cool.
find
We
it,
can
man,
fix
bud.
that. What's up?
You look fine to me, but I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
look to the right. There's just a black hole.
Oh,
See, just like a black
look at you. You would
dark.
have been
Now we
good.
look okay.
You've been an asset in the I Spy books. You're on top of everything here.
Yeah, he was. So Ben, my thing is when it comes to strategy for a slate like this, do you just spray when it comes to some of these cheap guys, like, or are you taking a stand on an Equinemius St. Brown, on an Amari Rodgers? How do you approach on a slate like this where a guy with a 33% target share is out, then the guy who would have been the number 2 was out, then the guy who would have been the number 1 when the number 1 and the number 2 were out is out. So the 1, 2, and 3 are all out. And then you're left with a bunch of guys that I guarantee plenty of people, and this is no disrespect to anybody, I guarantee plenty of people watching this show right now have not heard of some of the players we're going to talk about rostering tonight.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, I think that, like everything, there's fine lines. I think Equinemius St. Brown is the most likely to really contribute tonight, but I also think that the public and some of the projections and whatnot are going to identify that. So you've got a large pool of players, and it still goes back to game script. If the Packers control the game, Rodgers could be really efficient, and maybe they don't need a ton of passing volume. Now, if they're down and Rodgers throws the ball 40 times, you're going to need more than Equinemius St. Brown and the running backs and Tanyan to get it done. So I do think you're going to have to open it up to some guys that are very live to get straight 0 tonight. It's just a product of the slate.
Alex, what are your thoughts from a strategy standpoint on a slate like tonight? If you're single entering, maybe 3 max, or even if you're playing 150 like you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same rules as you normal apply, like stacking up 5 guys from one team is usually a good strategy in Showdown. As far as the sleeper plays, like let's not get too overboard. I mean, Equinemius St. Brown is a good play, but I don't really think anyone like Amari Rogers or Malik Taylor, I think they're like in play, but if you don't have them, I really don't think you're missing out on a ton. So I'd say it's a pretty normal Showdown slate. The main difference is, I mean, just the Packers are a lot worse off than they would have been otherwise.
All right, let's dive into this. Before we do, happy to have everybody with us. We're up over 1,000 and we just got started, so appreciate that. However, that ratio likes to viewers, it's okay. Could be better. Listen, if you haven't hit the thumbs up yet, I know it was an accident. People are forgetful. I'm forgetful. But if you haven't done so, hit that thumbs up. Get us up over 200 straight out of the gate here. And as you know, this content's always going to be free. No doubt about it. But in the event that you do hit the thumbs up, well, you know, we'll just continue to make better content and hopefully help you guys win some money, which is exactly why we're here. So let's do it. Oh, and subscribe to the channel too. So help us get to 70K. And if you want to join, get those custom emojis, those sweet badges that you see in chat, and the shout outs, of course, and priority access to questions during these shows. We got you covered. Just hit join down below. All right, Ben, started off with the Packers. We got, it was 723. Lock is at 820. All right, sounds good. We're good to go. So when it comes to Aaron Jones is where I want to start with. This guy in 6 games that Davante Adams has missed, from 2019 to 2020, he missed 4 in 2019, 2 last year. Aaron Jones' pass catching production goes up considerably. And Matt Kajeski pulled it up on the strategy show when he wasn't insulting AB accidentally this morning. That even when this was a situation, when Davante Adams was out, they ran very few 3 wide receiver sets. They ran a lot of 21 personnel, a lot of 12 personnel. So a lot of snaps with 2 running backs on the field. I think that's kind of important tonight when you're looking at the AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones dynamic.
No doubt. This is one, and you can do this in Showdown, but I definitely think it's not the craziest thing to actually pair up the backs and just hope that somehow Green Bay just really, really gets it going on the ground. And that's not impossible. Cardinals so far this year, they're giving up 5 yards per rushing attempt, 31st in the league. So it's not like you can't run on them. The problem teams are having is they fall behind. And once you fall behind late in the game, you can't really run the ball. But Green Bay's a really good team. Aaron Jones is a really good player. And certainly when you look, what I always do when we get situations like this, I look to the prop market because I want to say, okay, what are the books anticipating? Aaron Jones's receptions prop is 5.5. So clearly they think that he's going to get a lot of targets tonight. And it makes a lot of sense considering the losses on the outside.
Alex, how are you approaching the backfield for Green Bay?
Yeah, I think Aaron Jones is one of the top plays on the slate. I mean, you really don't have a guy that has this high workload projected, like outside of maybe Kamara last year, where when Davante's out, Aaron Jones just has upside no matter what game script it is. So I feel pretty confident in Aaron Jones in any lineup, especially because Davante Adams is out.
And if you look at his price too, though, like Alex, he's not priced up at all. You would think, like, let's just say that this slate, let's just say the salaries were released yesterday with the Davante news already having broke. There's no way that Aaron Jones is only 13.5 in the captain spot on DraftKings. There's just no way.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cheap for just a normal situation. So I think you gotta think of him as a top play tonight. I mean, it all comes down to the ownership as well, because other people, they're also going to be looking at Aaron Jones and kind of getting excited. So, like, when it comes to the ownership, actually, there's still an advantage in picking him at captain. In our top Showdown plays tool, we have him at 15% captain ownership and 24% chance of being the top scoring player. So I like those odds.
So, I mean, it's got to be the highest leverage score on the slate, right? Or on the game.
It is, yeah. I'm refreshing the ownership right now, so
yeah, me too.
We should have updated batch pretty soon. But Actually, I just finished, so let me update that.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think
Yeah. So an hour ago, he was at 10.8% leverage, which is a really nice score on a slate like this for sure. And you don't see that too often. I mean, like you said, 15% top captain ownership, top play probability 24%, optimal captain 20%. That's huge. So Ben, I'm looking at this, but I also see Dylan, and you just talked about it. I'm really not opposed to having two running back lineups here, because I guess the question is when you're on a team like this, and we know that Aaron Rodgers can make do with what he's got. He can throw receivers open. He's very good. So, Amari Rodgers has a big game, or one of these no-namers. I'm not saying he's a no-namer, but one of these guys that you would never expect to roster has a big game. Understandable, or at least, breaks off a long catch and run. Fine. But it also makes sense to assume that Rodgers might just want to get his best players, his most skilled players involved, which includes Aaron Jones and the second round running back from last year in AJ Dillon.
I mean, I also think we've got to think about it from the Packers standpoint. Going into this game, they are 6-point underdogs. Logically, to me, the way to win the game would be to shorten it. I talked about on the Awesome Odds channel today on the betting show. I really like the under in this game. I think that Green Bay is going to have opportunities to run the ball. They're a pretty methodical team. They run under 60 plays per game anyway. AJ Dillon should be really busy in this game, regardless of what they do with Aaron Jones. He's not a prolific pass catcher, but he's not a zero either. And he's certainly able to carry a workload on the ground. So to me, there could just be a lot of volume around Green Bay running backs altogether. So I think they both are firmly in play, and you can even pair them up.
Would you consider captaining AJ Dillon on a slate like this if it meant, and I haven't made this lineup yet, but I'm just curious, if it meant getting to like Kyler and Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers and like a DeAndre Hopkins or one of these guys up top?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I guess for me, the question there would be, do you want to go full leverage and not use Aaron Jones in that lineup and think that, okay, maybe we get a real outlier. Something either happens or he consolidates all the touchdowns on the ground. I'm going to load up with some, like a really weird team would be like AJ Dillon as a captain and then like an Arizona stack under him. I don't think anyone will really do that. There's reasons probably why you shouldn't do that. But at the same time, that's one way you could really get a funky game script if that came to fruition.
For sure. I mean, it does feel like there are ways to get creative tonight, Alex. And does that consist for you of maybe going to some cheaper guys in the captain spot and loading up on all the expensive players at flex?
Yeah, that is a strategy that I tend to like, because it kind of boosts your optimal lineup chance, where obviously you need the best lineup possible. If it's really hard to get all these guys like Rodgers, Murray, Aaron Jones in the same lineup, then paying down a captain and just hoping that all of them do well, but none of them do exceptionally well, can be a good strategy. You also like the counterpoint is there are a lot of really, really cheap guys on today's slate that have potential, particularly Equanimeous St. Brown at $600. So I'm not saying that he necessarily is going to have a big day, but if one of these $300 to $1,000 guys has like 7 or 8 points, then you're in a situation where the expensive player is probably going to be the optimal captain.
Makes sense. I also think, Alex, that Robert Tonyan makes a ton of sense today. When you're looking at just overall lack or what you're losing from Davante Adams, you're losing a 33% target share, 30% target share in the red zone. I got a guy who last year led the league in targets inside the 5-yard line. So, I mean, he's like the primary and premier goal line target for Aaron Rodgers as well, who threw more than any quarterback at the goal line last year too. I think when you look at who you have available as reliable options inside the red zone, particularly inside the 10, and we have to assume that Rodgers will make a few trips to the red zone tonight, Robert Tonyan feels like a guy that might get a couple opportunities to catch a couple in the end zone and give us a score or two. What do you think about him tonight?
Yeah, I think Tonyan, I think the logic is sound, just going to the tight end, because he's going to get targeted more now that some of the other players are out. Tanya's he's been the kind of bane of my fantasy for a while, because from a fantasy standpoint, he's only been targeted 14% of the time when he's been out on the field. That's pretty low for a guy that's performed at the level that he did last year. So far this year, he hasn't been quite as good, but I just don't know if he's the kind of guy that can get open enough to yield a high target share. I'm kind of curious like why it's always been so low. But I do think going to tight end on Green Bay, I think he's obviously the number one guy. I don't hate mixing it up a little bit with maybe Mercedes Lewis. Green Bay does run 2 tight end sets at a pretty high rate compared to other teams. And that could go up as well with some of these wide receivers out. So maybe Mercedes Lewis is that dart throw that could get there today.
Yeah, how do you attack the tight end position, Ben, with Davante Adams being a glaring hole in this offense?
Yeah, there's no doubt that Tanyan is a guy that's going to be relied on. Receptions prop is at 4.5. It is slightly juiced to the under, but still, or I shouldn't even say slightly juiced. It's straight juiced to the under, but he's going to be busy. He's a red zone target. And it's true. One thing that I sometimes fall into the trap of is in football, when a guy goes down, it's like, okay, this team, like they've got to replace him. What are they going to do? Sometimes the solution is to change the formations, as you talk about, run different personnel out there. If you're really deficient at wide receiver, maybe you don't have 3 or 4 wide receivers on the field at all times. Maybe you go with multiple tight ends, multiple backs, things of that nature. So don't be surprised if Green Bay runs some different personnel tonight. That could help guys like Mercedes Lewis and certainly can help Tanyan.
Yeah, and apparently, they did run a decent amount of 12 personnel last time. Now, look, I don't know how involved Mercedes Lewis is going to be, but, 2 or 3 receptions and a touchdown at what's he cost? He's got to be dirt. Yeah, he's $1,000 on DraftKings. It's super cheap. But, Alex, I will ask you this, though. How much more necessary is it to get to these really cheap guys on DraftKings than it is on a site like, say, FanDuel?
That's a good question. FanDuel, the number of possible lineups on FanDuel is kind of lower, so sometimes getting to that cheap guy does help you mix it up a lot compared to other teams. So that's one positive. But in general on DraftKings, because it goes down to $200 instead of $5K, I guess it's more worthwhile on DraftKings trying to get that $200 to $600 guy than on FanDuel.
So, all right, Ben, we got to talk wide receivers here. It's ugly and not much of it makes sense. We got through what I believe to be the pretty obvious ones in the backfield with Aaron Jones and even AJ Dillon and Robert Tonyan as well. Where do we start? Like, do we have to start at Equanimeous St. Brown, who Aaron Rodgers was very much complimenting throughout the week on his work ethic and his demeanor, despite not being used frequently in the offense this year? Maybe he gives the guy a chance tonight.
I mean, I think even if he doesn't want to, he's going to have to give him a chance. So they don't have the luxury of messing around. And I do think that he's someone we've seen at times. He's certainly, I don't know. I thought there was a chance that he would be really, really good in the league. And I do think he's got some skill sets that can translate. To me, the harder guy is Amari Rodgers, who I really don't know what to expect from. He's only, just like everyone else. He's $400 on this slate. Really, really cheap. Kind of a gadgety guy, more of a burner in my opinion. I saw him a lot in college and whatnot, but it's just going to be tough. I don't know how they want to get these guys involved. I don't think that, once again, Green Bay can just say, okay, Equanimeous St. Brown, you're Davante Adams, and Amari Rodgers, you're Lazard. It doesn't work like that, obviously. So they're really going to have to alter the play calling, maybe some bubble screens, things like that. And that can really add up full point PPR when you're that cheap. Couple easy receptions and you've already really created a nice floor for yourself.
Is he your favorite cheap option on the slate?
I think he's got to be in terms of St. Brown. I think he's going to get certainly the more optimal targets. He's a red zone type guy. He can make some plays. They could easily 6'5", be trailing.
204. Yeah,
he's a player in that regard. He can go and get it, and that's not Amari Rodgers for you. So I think he'll have chances tonight. I don't know if he can make the plays, but they might not have a choice if they're trailing.
What about Cobb?
I mean, again, though, I think that's a situation. He kind of is who he is. He's got a receptions prop of 4.5. It's juiced to the over, but he's going to operate on the inside. I don't think they're going to want to split Randall Cobb out wide and have him going deep. His ADOT should still be, I think, relatively short. He's a safety blanket underneath. So he's going to have a game, but to me, he's kind of priced, I don't want to say correctly, but it's not a gimme price where some of these other guys, it's ridiculous. But still at 36, it is certainly salary relief if you need more.
How do you dissect this wide receiver core, Alex?
Yeah, I think this one's really tricky. I mean, obviously Cobb has been the one that's been getting playing time recently, so we feel pretty confident in Cobb. He isn't a great player at this point in his career, but he's going to be out there, and that's important. Equanimous St. Brown, I think, is locked into number 2. The reason why is I feel like Amari Rodgers, Ben, you were saying he's kind of a gadgety player. Like from everything I've read, he like operates mostly from the slot, which is Cobb's place. So like I know like they lump all wide receivers into one position in a lot of times in NFL, but a lot of teams it's not really like that. They have like a few different roles for wide receivers. So my worry with Amari Rodgers is that he just doesn't play much because there's not slot routes open, but he is their 3rd round pick from this year. So, I mean, if there's any time they'd play him outside his natural position, it would be tonight.
Yeah, so you're right. He hasn't run a ton of routes, right? But I think only like 17, but almost 70% of them have come in the slot, Alex, and 78% of Cobb have been lined up in the slot. And then you've got somebody like St. Brown. I mean, the guy has 1 reception for 0 yards on the year, so there isn't much to say there. But yeah, that's a really good point. If that's the case and he kind of gets squeezed out, then yeah, he's probably going to be relegated to a lesser role. So would you put Cobb ahead of Equanimous St. Brown? Is that what you're saying, Alex? You'd put ESB at 2 and Cobb at 1?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I'd say they're both like pretty confident. Like we can be pretty confident in both of those guys based on their price points. I don't really have a strong lean one way or the other. The other guy I'm looking at is Malik Taylor. He doesn't play much either, but he's at least 6'1" compared to Amari Rodgers 5'9". So I'm kind of thinking that maybe he'll be a little bit more versatile the way that they're able to run him out there.
What a mess. It really is a mess. I mean, Ben, the truth here is if you go to Equanimous St. Brown and say you captain Aaron Jones, it's just going to open a ton up. What other ways can you get different? Because that is going to be like a primary driver for salary relief on this slate, as it should be.
So I think unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, the way I would get different is actually by the lineup construction itself, not with the personnel per se. Do something weird with the punt play because just when you do that, it opens up a ton of salary, but everyone's doing that so they can pay up for Kyler and some of those guys on the other side, and they want to get Aaron Rodgers in there, and then you're left with another punt. You probably put in Randall Cobb, and boom, you're with 1,000 other people, and you've really hurt your EV of the lineup. So maybe you do something with some type of onslaught and you use them as a one-off. Maybe you do something weird with the captain spot, but you're going to have to be creative with these punt plays because everybody is going to have the same opportunities to pay down. And with the Green Bay Packers receivers being so decimated, it's such an obvious spot in that regard.
So what you're really saying is put St. Brown in the captain spot.
That's what I was going. Yeah, I was trying to incept you. I was more saying Malik Taylor, but yeah, I don't know if you want to go there. It's just a situation though. Again, when as Alex was bringing this up earlier, you've got a captain like that. When you have cheap players, it really can change the whole dynamic of the slate if they're able to just have an effective game. Because the allure of leaving money on the table, your 1v1s are a lot harder there when you have salary at those lower levels.
Ben, we've seen some weird and Alex, some weird people that have trolled in chat before.
Yeah.
I think we may have just got the most unique. It was held for review, so you guys didn't see it, but it was just like 20 texts or 20 messages from the same person saying, "Can you slice your neck?" Now, I feel like that means what I think it means.
Yeah, that's frowned upon. Good job, Emac. Way to lay down the law in chat. I was not paying attention, but
oh, did you not see those?
No. I was too busy imagining my lineups with Equanimous St. Brown and Malik Taylor.
It's just a really silly question too, because it's like obviously you could, but like the reason we don't is we just don't want to.
Yeah, no.
Exactly. And with Ben in the captain's, with Ben putting Equinemius in the captain spot, he'll be possibly answering yes to that question later tonight. All right.
Tough scene.
Too far? Come on.
It's
No? Yes? Whatever. All right. Alex, what do we do with kicker? What do we do with defense? Is there any, do you want to get to Crosby or any other players, skill players we haven't talked about yet?
I'm not super high on Crosby, I guess. Like normally like the kickers with a prop on him is heavily favoring the under on 1.5. You really need at least 2 field goals for it to pay off. And there's just too many cheap options tonight that you don't really need to go to kicker, especially for the Packers side, which is probably the worst option. I don't mind the Packers defense. So anytime you have a showdown slate, the thing people don't realize about defense, they can score 9 points at a time if they get like that fumble recovery touchdown. So that kind of volatility really does give them a decent chance of cracking the winning lineup.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I think on a slate like this, it's, a lot of times we do that for there's really no clear value or you think the game's going to be, even though I do think it could be low scoring at times, I just don't see really the appeal going to someone like Crosby. And the defenses are always in play, particularly when I like quarterbacks. It's counterintuitive, but someone like Kyler who can make some plays. He also takes some chances at times. I wish he was running more. That's something we'll talk about on the Arizona side, but you can always go there. I think that's one of the ways, as we've talked about, how can you be different with these obvious Packer players? Maybe throwing a defense in there can change it up.
PrizePicks.com or the App Store or the Google Play Store, wherever you want to check it out. Doesn't matter because you're going to love it. Daily prop-based contests, okay? Unlike DraftKings, FanDuel, these other sites, you don't have to worry about the optimizers, the mass entries, the sharks, anything like that. But you can use our free player prop tool at Awesemo. You can use all of the research you've done throughout the week for DFS, for betting, and all of that. And of course, throughout all of these shows during the week, use all of that insight, all that information combined with your own insight and our tools to make big plays, set big lineups over there, and win big money. Listen, PrizePicks, very simple process, very simple format is what it is. You pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 player props, okay? There's no juice to either side of these. It's just the over or the under. And you put them in a 5-player lineup. Now, unlike your traditional site or traditional book, right, or your traditional 5 or 4-leg parlay, if you hit 4 of 5 and you have that awful beat late, it's the 10:30 game on the West Coast game for basketball, you're 4 of 5 so far, and all you need is this big money line favorite that you've got in there to cover to hit your 5-leg parlay, and they lose outright by 20. You win nothing. At least with PrizePicks, and this is huge, right? Because you can actually sustain a bankroll and win good money at the same time, because if you hit on all 5, you 10x your money. At PrizePicks, you could hit 3 or 4 and still make money. That's so nice about this. So it's not a traditional parlay in the sense that you're just shooting for the moon and usually falling on your ass and coming up empty on these 5-leg parlays. That's huge. And even bigger, if you use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, get up to $100 first deposit match bonus over at PrizePicks using the promo code Awesemo. Again, AWESEMO. Whether it's football, basketball, hockey, baseball, esports, they got an insane amount of sports over at PrizePicks. You can mix them all into one lineup. It doesn't have to just be one. So if you're familiar with multiple sports, you can do it that way as well. Use the promo code Awesemo. Get up to $100 when you sign up and deposit, and take advantage of this. Great place to build your bankroll to win money and to not get your ass kicked on 5-leg parlays where you go 4 of 5 and come up empty. Ben, what do you got for me today?
Yeah, so PrizePicks, obviously the thing that I like about it, it's a lot of different types. You're not just funneled to TDs or yards. You have opportunities for pass catchers, for INTs as well. The one that I actually gravitated towards was a touchdown prop. Aaron Jones at 0.5 rush TDs. It just feels like no matter what scenario Green Bay's in, he's going to, unless they get truly shut out or they're just not effective at all, I feel like he's going to go over. He's going to be a back, and it doesn't mean that A.J. Dillon's not going to have opportunities. But to me, Aaron Jones is the most likely touchdown scorer in this game. I know he's got some equity to do it through the air, but I lean over 0.5 rushing TDs for him tonight.
You're stealing my groove, man.
That's why I went first.
What?
That's why I went first.
I always go over touchdowns because all of these other books have some heavy juice to the over. You could have taken Derrick Henry at just over half a touchdown the other day, and he was minus 220 everywhere else. Alex, what do you have?
What I'm looking at here, Randall Cobb, like the sports books, including PrizePicks on their DFS, they're expecting a lot from Randall Cobb. He's an older guy and he hasn't been targeted a ton. He hasn't been playing a ton. I just don't know if he's very good. The line is 58.5. That's a high bar to reach for any wide receiver. I just don't know if Devontae Adams being out really will impact Randall Cobb a ton. It'll probably just be spread around to other guys. So I think that's way too high.
All right. Fortunately for you, Ben, I have another touchdown prop that I like even better, and that I mentioned today. That's Dalvin Cook to score over a half a touchdown. I don't know how you couldn't like this. Now, we don't have that prop anywhere else where I can measure it up against it, but he's definitely going to be favored to score in this game against the Cowboys. There's just no way. He has a 53% share of carries in the red zone this year, which is insane. And that's only because Alexander Mattison played some of these games. So it would be even higher otherwise. I mean, my God, Dalvin Cook probably scoring twice, seriously. But I'll be interested to see what it looks like when it comes out elsewhere. I like Dalvin Cook to score in this game, no doubt about it. He's a legitimate 3-down back. He's going to get a lot of work in the red zone. And this game has real shootout potential with the over-under sitting at 54.5. It's the highest of any game in Week 8. Lock that up. All right, PrizePicks.com, App Store, Google Play, Awesemo promo code, $100 match deposit bonus. Talking about the Arizona side of this one, Alex, Kyler Murray, pretty wild ownership, 80%, but his top play probability right now is 31.7. So, and he's getting a lot of love, but for good reason. Interesting player though, because he spreads it around so much as well.
Yeah, I mean, of all the players on today's slate, Kyler Murray is got to be one of the most likely to just have enough to get in the optimal lineup. I mean, he's a guy that you project for like 20 or more points, and you don't need that much to get in the optimal and showdown. I think like maybe in the high teens would do it. So overwhelmingly likely Kyler Murray gets in the optimal, and then it really helps you build out the rest of your lineup because you start thinking like, okay, if Kyler gets there, then I'll pick a receiver with him, and you can kind of build that game script into your lineup.
Hey, thanks for the super chat. Robert Gauthier said, damn, 300 likes, 1,800 viewers. Let's get it bumped up for the boys. Ben, is that your multi-account there?
Yeah, you know me, always multitasking, trying to keep chat lively. But no, we appreciate the super chat for sure, and appreciate all the support. I do want to give a quick shout out to the Awesemo Odds channel. I know I brought it up earlier, but a lot of the same people who have jumped in tonight have been gracing me an Eitan show every Thursday for our Lock It Up segment. So it's good to see you guys make the trek over here to talk a little showdown tonight with us.
We're going to get one locked up later when we hit on our best bets, Ben. You got something in the hopper?
I do. College football already tipped, but don't worry, I got a couple player props for this game as well.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you, Robert. I mean, listen, $10 super chat just to say get the likes up. It's my kind of guy right there. Appreciate you, man. We'll be at 500 in no time. What do we got watching? Over 1,800. So we're doing good things tonight. It's almost 8 o'clock on a Thursday. Ben, Kyler Murray spread the ball around a lot this year, whether it's AJ Green, Kirk, Hopkins, Rondell Moore, Chase Edmonds in the passing game. Now you want to add an extra wrinkle, throw another wrench into the works. You got Zach Ertz, who had a damn red zone carry last game and a 47-yard touchdown in his first start with the Cardinals.
It's very difficult. This is a team, in some ways, they remind me of the Chiefs. When they get going, they do a lot of weird things. They've got a lot of different guys that contribute. And Kyler, the main takeaway that I want to get into.
It's not my birthday before you guys start. I'm sorry. I know chat's going to get flooded. It's not my March 26th. When March 26th rolls around, hit me up. I'll be happy to take those congratulations or happy birthdays. Ben, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's fine.
I was seeing the future there, and it looked bleak. Go ahead.
If you told me someone wished you happy birthday in chat, I would have bet my entire life that it was Spencer. Maybe that's his alt account, but it's
but
not.
it wasn't.
But it wasn't. So we got a new birthday shenanigans person. All right. Happy birthday. I will say though, with Kyler Murray, the big question I want to ask you guys so far this year, and they are undefeated, so I think it might be just a game script issue. He doesn't seem to want to run. He's not taking a ton of chances. He has scored 3 times, but those are obviously red zone runs. In his last 3 games, he's got 17 yards on the ground combined. He's not doing anything. And we know he can run, but he seems very reluctant to. So it does make him more correlated to his receivers than usual. This used to be a guy where we would say, in addition to the receivers, he might run for 100 yards and get a bonus. That seems more and more unlikely here. So I do think that he is more directly correlated to his pass catchers. The problem is, as you guys mentioned, he's got 5 of them, and that makes it very, very difficult.
You know, I mentioned that this morning, right? Like his rushing yards over the last 3 weeks are 10, 6, and 1 on 7, 7, and 6 attempts. It's kind of strange.
And maybe this is misguided. I don't know if we're going to find out tonight. I believe that if the Cardinals and when the Cardinals fall behind in some of these games, we will see Kyler open it up on the ground. But they just haven't had to do that. They've handled all their opponents relatively easily too. So I have a feeling that unless it gets into a different game script, it might be more the same on the ground for Kyler.
Yeah, my thinking, Alex, too, is along the same lines. Like, why risk his health at this point if they're beating up on Houston by, 26 or something, and they're smoking Cleveland, and they beat San Francisco? It was a tight fought game, but still there was no real jeopardy there. I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it. Does that worry you though, that his rushing upside has been curtailed lately?
It worried me in the main slate, I think, where you need a bigger performance out of your quarterback. But
True.
tonight, I'm really more concerned about the overall team performance. And they play in a dome. Green Bay's defense is okay. It's not anything that's going to move the needle a ton. So the conditions are solid for the Cardinals tonight. And Kyler is about as close to lock as you can get. The rushing has been weird though. He's only averaged 2.7 yards per carry this year. So I wouldn't count on him adding a ton on the ground, but I don't think he needs to.
What are you doing with the wide receivers here? We got about a little less than 30 minutes till lock, so we still got some time to nail this down. Hopkins is crushing it in terms of touchdowns this year. He's second in touchdowns behind only Cooper Kupp. I think he's tied with Jamar Chase probably too. A lot of red zone targets, a lot of targets inside the 10-yard line. Like all of that stuff is great, but they haven't needed to utilize him like he was utilized in previous years where they, like Ben said, played from behind or, where they're in shootouts. If this game does evolve into a shootout, can we expect more DeAndre Hopkins, or is there just too many mouths to feed at this point to project him for a huge game in that circumstance?
Yeah, I think this one, it comes down to target share for me, where I've found that at this point in the season, we can pretty much toss out last year's numbers and look at mostly this year's numbers. So far this year, he's been targeted 18% of the time. He's been running a route. That's down from 24% last year. So that puts him into a more mortal territory. It's not much higher than other guys on his team. Like Christian Kirk has been targeted 18% of the time. Rondale Moore has been targeted 24% of the time on fewer snaps. But, I don't think Hopkins is really that top echelon wide receiver in fantasy that we're used to.
Alex, Craig says, where's Alex with the Mark Davis bowl haircut? That was epic. Yeah, that how good was that photo? He did one of me, or I think it was a girl, a woman. She did one of me as well. And dude, they were solid. They were spot on, weren't they?
Yeah, I'm tempted to grow out my hair now. That looked pretty good.
Dude, if you miraculously grew your hair back and it's just a miracle, right? Like you wake up one day and you've got a full head of hair and you're like, you know what? I think that would look good on me. You'd be a hero.
Well,
go ahead.
LeBron pulled it off, and I keep driving by these signs that Brian Urlacher has this new hair product, so maybe I'll try it out.
Is it Keeps? There's one I hear about all the time, Keeps. It's like if you're starting to lose your hair, This will make sure you don't lose any more of it. Ben, you don't look like you have that issue though.
I mean, I got other issues with my hair, but not that one. So yeah, I mean, what can I say? I don't know what photos you're talking about.
Oh, you didn't see it? You didn't?
No.
Oh my God. You didn't see it?
We got enough, as you'll see in this show. There's been enough ridiculous photos of us three being populated out there when we get to the odd shopper segment. So we don't need more.
I will preface that every show with, I did not approve this image.
Yeah, well, I don't approve anything around here. No one listens to me. So yeah, there you go.
All right, let's keep it going then. Ben, talk to me about these pass catchers.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I at times have thought, DeAndre Hopkins, we're getting into game theory territory. Like everyone says, oh, he's regressed and he's still DeAndre Hopkins. At some point, you have to look at reality, and he's just simply a good receiver on a team that has a lot of, pass catchers and playmakers. He is not an alpha. He's not someone that's demanding massive target share on most weeks. I'm sure he can have a game or two where he really gets going. He's a great player. But there's no doubt in this offense that he is not far and away a guy that's going to just dominate the ball like he did, particularly when he was in Houston, of course. So it's tough to get there. Then you add in the unknown about his hamstring. He's going to play, but maybe he's limited. It's hard to get there. You're paying a premium. There's always that many people will probably be deterred, even just looking through chat. So far, almost every question we saw with Hopkins was to the negative about not playing him. But I still think there's so much risk there. It's hard to click that name in.
I feel like, though, Ben, AJ Green is kind of one of those guys where the price is weird, but he has been the number 2. It's hard to rely on guys consistently from day to day. AJ Green could be, someone that we see get multiple red zone targets today. And that's really what we're looking for, right? Like when it comes to these showdown slates, you're going to need some touchdowns, particularly from guys in that mid-range. Is if you were to rank the receivers, obviously ownership, salary, all of that baked into your decision, how are you ranking them for Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly difficult. There's no doubt about it. The reason that you don't, week to week, it's going to be in flux. There truly isn't a priority order for these guys, and the books bear that out. DeAndre Hopkins, of course, still is the guy most likely to garner the most target share. Christian Kirk, AJ Green, and Zach Ertz, their receptions prop they're all 3.5, and they're all slightly juiced to the over. So you were looking at 3 guys basically in the same ballpark. We haven't even talked about Edmonds. And then you've got, Rondell Moore, who's right around that as well. So it's very, very difficult. I think that AJ Green has the most touchdown equity of the bunch just because of kind of how he plays. And then you've got Rondell Moore, who's probably more of the closer to get 0, but also could get there on 1 catch type out.
Alex, how do you rank these receivers today?
Yeah, I guess Hopkins, obviously the number 1, even despite what we're saying. But he's more expensive. So Rondale Moore is pretty interesting. He's been getting a decent number of carries in addition to targets. He's just not on the field a ton, but when he has been, he's been targeted a lot. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get more playing time with Ertz on the team, probably less of anything, but he's pretty interesting just as a boom bust play. And then AJ Green had a really rough year last year, but so far this year he's been pretty excellent. The thing I'm seeing is he's getting a huge vote of confidence from the team in the fact that he's played on 89% of snaps running a route this year, which that's a very high number. So they have a ton of confidence in him. He's performed really well this year. So at this point, I'm willing to forget all the woes of last year and just kind of, I think he's a good play tonight.
AJ Green last year was, for me, what T.Y. Hilton was to you.
Yeah.
Matt, do you remember how many targets he was getting early in the year? He had like a 35% target share and 3 receptions through the first 3 games. It was so hard to watch.
I mean, it's crazy to think. I mean, AJ Green used to be one of those like top tier wide receivers not that long ago.
Dude, he had a season with like 178 targets. That's why, Ben, not to get sidetracked here, but I'd rather have Dalton with Allen Robinson, because I know at least, despite how much pressure he'd be under and how awful they would be, he would just pepper him with 15 targets a game.
Oh, no doubt. We talked about that a lot. Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields being in the show was certainly a dog on the money line, but there's no doubt that Dalton would help. And AJ Green is, I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. He's still a phenomenal player. It's just, again, this offense is really difficult to break down the way they operate. It's tough to stop, but they also week in and week out, you've seen pretty much so far, we were only halfway through the season. Almost every one of these guys has had their moment already, including Zach Ertz, who's only been there for 1 week. Like every one of these guys at one point or another has really shown that they can be the focal point of the offense.
All right, let's talk about Chase Edmonds, because this is one spot where, God, is there any sure thing on this slate? I mean, nothing's ever a sure thing, right? But I mean, Aaron Jones, probably pretty close. Kyler Murray, sure. But all of these peripheral guys, man, it's tough. And Ben, I think Chase Edmonds falls into a similar category. Like, he is the best back on this team. I don't think there's any denying that, but I said it all year long coming into the season that Connor was going to be the goal line back. It was evident. There's no other reason to bring him in, and he has been. But Edmonds did get a goal line carry last game. That's somewhat encouraging. Played 69% of snaps. It was the first week he wasn't on the injury report in a while. So he went and played 37% of snaps in week 6 and then 69% in week 7. I feel like some of that might have had to do with his shoulder being back to full strength. James Conner, his snaps plummeted. He's never going to be involved as a pass catcher. If this does get into semi-shootout territory, I think Chase Edmonds could be, all right, I'll even go out on a limb. I think Chase Edmonds could end up being the optimal captain. Like, I'm not even saying the likelihood is high. What's his optimal cap? Okay, it's 5.7%. That's actually not that bad. It just feels like this game could turn into something where Chase Edmonds ends up being that guy that you need on your team, or he sucks again.
I mean, the good thing about Chase Edmonds is even if he's not great, you got multiple outs because he still gets a good amount of work on the ground, but he can catch the ball. His receptions prop is 3.5 as well. So they are expecting him to have a better floor. And to me, the interesting thing about the backfield, you look and you're like, oh, Chase Edmonds and Connor so far this year, not that I really look at fantasy points per game too much, but it's about even. The difference is James Conner has 6 touchdowns and Chase Edmonds has 0. So he's doing it all through work of actually doing things. He hasn't found the end zone. Clearly he's not, his TD equity isn't as high, but it shouldn't be to that extent. So I do like Chase Edmonds tonight. I think if the game flips unexpectedly and Green Bay gets the lead, you could see him. But at the same time, I will also be making a case for James Conner tonight because I think all the backs on both teams are firmly in play.
Well, then make that case, and then I want to get Alex's take on this.
So James Conner, again, it's not nearly as exciting. He's drawing to a game script where the Cardinals are comfortably ahead. But this is still a guy who's got double-digit carries in every game except one. He is a serious red zone threat, as we've seen. And with Kyler's rushing depressed, he had those 3 rushing touchdowns in weeks 1, 2, and 3. James Conner is really the guy around the goal line. So if you think that Arizona just destroys them on the ground, he could fall in the end zone a couple times. He can really suck out the points in general. And then you're talking about lower fantasy production in the game. That helps a guy like James Conner because you don't want a ton of passes because he has basically no PPR value.
Almost half of his fantasy points have come from touchdowns this year.
That's why you want a lower scoring game. So his touchdowns make up a large percentage of the points.
Alex, when you have a backfield like this and you're making lineups and you're projecting them, how are you going about that? It's just been so odd in the Arizona backfield this season.
Well, I think both are solid plays. Obviously, Chase Edmonds, we expect to put up a steady stream of small increments of points where Connor has that touchdown upside because he's getting most of the red zone carries. So it's hard to say which one is more valuable, but I guess we have Edmonds projected a little bit better because, I mean, even though Connor has gotten all the touchdowns so far, like you can't expect Edmonds to never score a touchdown. So he has decent touchdown equity compared to other players on the team, just not Connor.
I think so too. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I do like Connor though, or I do like Edmonds a lot. He's got to break that game off soon, and if he's fully healthy, I really do think that plays into it. If Chase Edmonds is fully healthy, you could be looking at an entirely different player, and if that's the case, man, could be getting some big games coming up down the road. I'm going to take some shots on him in the captain spot today and see how that plays out. If you are looking at tight ends, Alex, is Zach Ertz someone that you want in lineups today?
Yeah, I think. I mean, normally when a guy transfers to another team in the middle of the season, that's a receiver. It takes him a while to get acclimated, but that wasn't the case with Ertz. He ran routes on 54% of dropbacks last week. I feel like that number is only going to go up. So I think we could see him more involved this week. He's another guy where the performance this year has been pretty dreadful, but I'm hoping that switching from playing with Jalen Hurts to Kyler Murray should help Zach Ertz numbers.
Ben, your thoughts on Zach Ertz?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong take. We obviously haven't seen him a ton. It seemed like they were keen to get him involved as part of the team. You have the luxury of doing that when you play Houston. I don't think this will be that simple, but he's still shown that he can complement Kyler and these guys. I would rather play AJ Green if I was in that range, but at the same time, if you're making enough lineups, he's certainly got to be part of some of your Arizona onslaughts.
Who was your favorite, let's say, kind of off the board captain today?
Off the board captain would be James Conner.
What about you, Alex?
That's funny. That's who came to mind for me as well. But let me just go through some lineups. AJ Green, I think that might not be edgy enough. I guess one that we could look at is the Cardinals defense.
Oh,
Green Bay with all these guys out, there could be more miscommunications. Just not a strong play in general. So that seems like it could have a big payout.
Are you getting to Matt Prater?
A little bit. I think Arizona, I definitely prefer the kicker from Arizona just because they're projected to kick more field goals and get more touchdowns. So I think Prater, I mean, he's a fantastic kicker. It is a dome, so that helps kicking. The one thing against kickers today is just that there are a lot more cheaper plays that have a lot higher volatility. So I would say kicker is weaker on today's slate than it normally is.
That's a great point, though, right? Because there are so many days where we're using kickers as salary savers, right? Just to get to where we need to go. And also, I mean, this game, I think when you look at it, it's still, Alex has a 50.5 total. So it's also possible that you're just like, when you're getting that cheap player in there, the 8 or 9 points from the kicker might not get it done because you can play so many more expensive options, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I do love playing kickers, but the problem is, the odds that one of those cheap guys has a touchdown and eclipses 10 points are pretty good.
All right, Ben, thoughts on Prater or the Arizona defense today?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Arizona's defense is just Rodgers. Anyone can make mistakes, and there's other ways to get very lucky, and that's all defense is about. But in general, he's just not a quarterback that makes a ton of mistakes. We'll see. Maybe without his receivers, in the past with Devontae Adams being out, somehow the Packers have really thrived. I think this is going to be certainly one of the toughest tests they've ever faced without Adams. So I do think, though, you guys have nailed it with the value plays. It's really hard with kickers because the range of outcomes, isn't that wide. There's so many guys. One of these guys from the Packers, it's hard to imagine, doesn't contribute on the outside. And whoever that is probably the guy you want over someone like Prater.
Let's build a lineup, fellas. We still got 10 minutes to go here. We'll see how we do. We still have we got way over 1,700 people watching, almost 500 likes. So if you've forgotten up until this point, friendly reminder, it would be really cool to get over that 500 like mark and help us combat the YouTube overlords and the algorithm here that looks to suppress us and hold us down. That's not true. They don't probably even know who we are. But in all seriousness, it does help with the algorithm, no doubt about it, and helps us get out there a little bit more, keep doing this stuff. So appreciate you guys in advance, and subscribe to the channel. Join the channel if you want. If you don't want to, that's cool. I don't blame you. But, well, I kind of do. I don't blame you in the sense that, hey, it's $2.99 and you might not want to spend $2.99. But if you got it, and you want to join, become an exclusive member of Team Awesemo here, well, I'll welcome you with open arms. build a lineup. Captain spot first goes to Alex. Who do we got?
Well, I think I liked Ben's pick of James Conner. I think in a game where the Cardinals dominate, he'll have a healthy score.
Who'd you go with? Connor?
Yeah.
All right, Ben, what do we got?
So even though already I think we're setting this up for Arizona dominance, it's still hard to think that Aaron Jones isn't still involved. Maybe it's just more passing. They're going to need him to contribute regardless. So let's plug in the most obvious play.
Love it. Love Aaron Jones today for sure. I'm going to go. So we got Connor. So what type of game script is that projecting for? Like a slog fest?
Just a lot of Cardinal scoring where he ends up getting a lot of rush attempts and maybe some goal line work.
Yeah. It's also possible that it's a shootout and they get down to the goal line twice and he gets both of those. So I guess he can do it in really a variety of ways. I'm going to go with, if we're talking large field tournament, I'm going with Robert Tonyan. Obviously, we're going to get quarterbacks here. It should be easy, but I really think Tonyan benefits from Davante Adams' absence almost as much as anybody. So give me that right now. Ben, Alex, what do you got?
So I think Kyler Murray makes a lot of sense if we're expecting the Cardinals to have a big game.
Ben, what do you got?
What do I got? Let's see. We got
Murray.
Kyler, Tonyan. Let's throw in, even though Connor, I do think, is going to consolidate there. There's still room for a pass catcher with Kyler. I'm going to go to a guy that I think maybe is a little more I'm just going to say he's just not AJ Green. I'm going to go to Rondell Moore. Change it up, leave you guys some salary. I think that Moore maybe gets involved underneath. Hopefully nothing too crazy because then he might want to be our captain, but I think he could be a nice compliment to Kyler.
You said Rondell Moore?
Yep.
I dig it. All right. So that gives us what? We've got 7,900. We've got the Kyler. We got 3 Arizona. We got Aaron Jones, Robert Tonyan. Oh, all right. How crazy is it if we're going large field to have Edmonds and Connor in the same lineup?
I don't think it's crazy at all. I mean, I think that's on the table for anything.
I don't mind it either. It's not like if they just go nuts here, right? This lineup is not going to be popular at all. So it's a little off the board because you got the running back there and then just like not an onslaught, but a bunch of Arizona. I like it though. I'm okay with that. Chase Edmonds as a pass catcher. We can get there for sure. I like it. You know what else I like? I like Odds Shopper. And before you guys go, check this out. If you like betting, maybe it just became legal in your state, right? And you're trying to get your sea legs. First of all, you should be over at the Awesemo Odds channel on YouTube because Ben, one of the sharpest fellas out there when it comes to sports betting, but he uses Odds Shopper too because it has the simplest way to find bets and to make bets. And not only simplest way to find bets that are going to win more times than they aren't by the ability for you to sort by expected win rate or expected ROI, which Alex's projections and our projections here, we're using them to account for that, but also gives you the best bet on every book. So like if you have under 67.5 rushing yards for Aaron Jones, you can find, boom, okay, we tell you DraftKings best bet is there than any other book. But then we have one right next to it where it's Aaron Jones. If you wanted to hit the under on that, FanDuel's got it at 69.5 with basically no juice on the under. So it makes life so easy. 2 clicks and you're in. Ben, then Alex. God, that window shopping. We got to get that image out of there. That is just humiliating. I'd rather rock the Mark Davis haircut, to be honest with you. Ben.
Maybe we can Photoshop that in there.
We should. To all of us next time. What do you got for me over at Odds Shopper? And how are you finding these bets tonight?
Yeah, so I think tonight is actually one of the more difficult because we just don't know with the Packers in general. There's a lot of unknowns about personnel and whatnot. But my favorite thing, as I've talked about a lot with Odd Shopper, yes, I love that we've got a great set of projections in the algorithm. But to me, it's so simple. And I have so many things. There's 5 sports going on at times. There are bets here that are identified that I would never think about. And I'm going to bring up an obvious one. Aaron Rodgers rushing yards, we've identified as possibly a really good under bet tonight, under 11.5. I never would have looked at that. It just wasn't on my radar. And now I've quickly identified, okay, this is something I should look into. More I look into it, it does seem like maybe that's a little heavy of a number. So I'm going to lean under there. So there's just a lot of things like that that you can take advantage of. And it's just, if you don't have the time to sort through 100 props a night, go here, sort by expected ROI, and then pick the ones that you're interested in and dig into the information.
Dude, that's what I do all the time.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Use that as a guide, Alex, and then I dig a little bit deeper to see where it's coming from, and I go, oh, I probably would have missed that otherwise. Yeah. And if you don't have time, just trust the projections too. That's the great thing about it. What do you got, Alex?
Yeah, totally. It's funny because they have props for everything these days. So
Really
like there's so many possibilities. But my favorite one is the one I mentioned earlier, the Randall Cobb under. I just feel like 58.5, that is just like a crazy high number. I mean, I don't think he's been having a prop more than like 30 or 40 before now. So I know Devontae Adams helps a little bit being out, but I don't think it helps to the tune of like 30 yards.
All right. Also totally free. OddsShopper 100% free. Let me go. So I think I have to. Who did you go with, Alex? Sorry, I was finishing a lineup.
Cobb under on receiving yards.
I feel like I have to go Mercedes Lewis. And when you said they have props for everything, you definitely were not lying. Mercedes Lewis under 2.5 receptions. He's been targeted at least 2 times in every game over the past few weeks, but his targets are 2, 2, 2, and 3. He has 1 game this season with 3 receptions. That was last one. But I think it's going to be tough to get there. And while they will use 12 personnel without Adams, a lot of that's going to be used as Mercedes Lewis to block. He's running like 5 to 7 routes per game. I'm okay assuming that if he runs 10 routes today, that he's not going to catch a reception on 30 or catch a ball on 31% of them, let alone be targeted on 30% of them. So let me get that under. And that has an insane expected win rate over at OddsShopper. So check it out. You guys will like it. And let us know your favorite bets tonight. What do you got? Hit us with something good. Ben, you got anything else for us from a betting standpoint that people should get in before they close up?
No, I mean, I think that there's always another aspect. And this is one of the reasons, if you really do enjoy betting, go to the Awesemo Odds channel, subscribe and join us, because live betting is really growing. And that's something that we talk about, the process and the strategy of that over there. There's a lot of games, and this is one. Maybe we see tonight, wow, they're doing something that we didn't anticipate with the Packers. They're splitting out Aaron Jones a ton, or they're using Amari Rodgers in an interesting way. We can react on the fly and try to create value during the game. So don't think that the betting stops once kickoff happens. There's a lot we can learn, a lot of value we can create on that front.
Absolutely. Alex, final thoughts before we get out of here. You're in Miami right now, huh?
Yeah, I'm having a little FOMO because I can't place any bets, but playing DFS hits different down here. I'll tell you that. This should be an awesome slate. I mean, we got some great sleeper plays. The guys that you never get a roster, like now's your chance. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. You guys are the best. Thanks for hanging out as always. We'll catch you back here for Monday Night Football. But tomorrow, we got On the Contrary, 11 a.m., Alex and myself and a special guest, Ben, with the sports betting show, NBA strategy, live before lock, deeper dive, NHL, everything. I mean, literally a one-stop shop for everything DFS. Appreciate you guys. Thanks to our boy Mike Lawrence for producing the show, and you guys for hanging out throughout the night. Good luck. We'll catch you back here tomorrow. Peace.